Welcome, Getaway 2020. Today's video, we are talking about siblings and the impact that siblings play within the burn injury. I'm super excited today to have Karen Mendoza with us. My name is Daniel Apollo Chacon. I am the Assistant Director of the Louisiana Rich Burn Foundation, and we'll get right into it. Thank you, Karen, for being a part of today's video.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Good. Well, Karen, why don't you tell us a little about your story, just briefly what happened to you and your family, and we'll go from there.
All right. So my sister, Kika, she's a burn survivor. It happened when she was 4 years old, so I wasn't born yet, but I was in my mom's stomach. So I basically grew up with hospital foods, and my family was nurses, doctors. I would go to the hospital and just be like, I want to go to the third floor and go play games and stuff. And I do remember when I was younger, it was a lot of when I was at school and I had friends and they would see my sister. They would always ask me like, what happened to your sister? Or sometimes it would be in a very rude way where I felt like I didn't even know how to reply to that, where it was like, well, she's a burn survivor. Or sometimes I didn't even know if I could even say it just because it wasn't my story to tell. I always felt that way. And every time, even right now, when my friends ask me like, hey, so what happened to your sister? It's always kind of like that question where it's like, oh, like it's noticeable. Like for me, since I grew up with her, I never really saw it as something different. With her, I actually recently asked her if when I was younger, you're in that stage of like asking questions and everything. And so I asked her like, did I ever ask you what happened to you because you look different from everyone else? And she was like, no, you're pretty normal with me. You didn't even care. You didn't see me different. And I was like, okay, that's good. I do know like it did impact a little bit like our family now saying as to all of like the moving and her hospital dates and appointments and the times that she had to be at the hospital and the times that either our dad or our mom had to be with her and not be with us. I know like it isn't any of her fault that happened, but there were times where they had to leave with her to get surgeries and stay with her for over like a month or 2 months, and we wouldn't see either our dad or our mom because they had to stay with her through that whole process. But it was really rewarding to see them when they would come back, and it would be like a surprise and like, oh, you're back from your surgery and everything's okay. So there wasn't really much rivalry in like the attention. Maybe it's because I'm the middle child and the stigma of like saying like the middle child, they don't get much attention, but I was always there with the whole process. So I think I was just very used to it. So it wasn't like a change where it was like I had a whole bunch of attention, and because of the situation that happened with her, everything had to change. The whole dynamic of our family had to change. It was kind of like something that just went along, and we all it was pretty normal for us. But yeah, that's basically our little family. We're very united. We try to help each other out as much as we can. We did see that for a while, the teenager stage and all that, saw that she was getting like all that attention and support and a whole bunch of other things where I was like, well, why am I not getting that? And then I would always have to remind myself that some things are harder for her than for me. And even though like sometimes she would say it's no excuse, like I'm the same person, like I'm same as you, that there is truth to that. Our parents would always talk to us behind her back, telling us that it's something really difficult for her that to go through. So we sometimes there's gonna be those days where they're gonna have to give her more attention, and we shouldn't feel bad. We shouldn't feel like we're getting neglected because we aren't. But sometimes she does need a little bit more of attention. But that was when we were younger. Right now it's kind of like all equally, we're all grown up,
Thank you for sharing that. You highlighted some really good parts, in thinking about the getaway this year and thinking about our topics, we really wanted to highlight the dynamics of the siblings because they don't get talked about. And it sounds like you have a great family and your parents were very intentional of having these conversations with you and being honest with you about what was going on, and the need for her to receive attention or care in certain ways. Um, can you talk a little more about being a kid and remember the times that you were a kid when she would go away to the hospital? Was there fear there? Was there anger? Did you understand what was happening even to her when this was all happening? And did your parents even walk you through those processes?
I do have some memories, as I had said before, like when we would go visit her to the hospital, I would automatically just be like, I want to go to the third floor, just go play games. Um, but I do remember a lot of it being that I would cry when she would leave. Um, that it was always like asking like, well, why does she need this? Like she's okay and everything. But my parents are really good with that communication and letting us know, because I really want to say like, oh yeah, I made tantrums, or it was like I never knew what was going on and stuff, um but I really don't have a memory of that. All of my memories are really kind of like me just being a kid and my parents just saying she's at the hospital, she needs it, and we're going to go visit her when she's out of surgery. And we would go see her, she would be okay. Sometimes I believe one of the times that I went to see her, she was already like at the process where she could get up and all. And I was like, I want to go to the third floor, and she's like, yeah, I want to go to the third floor too. And my mom was like, I don't know if she can and all that, like worried and stuff. And I believe the nurse put her in a wheelchair and we went to the third floor, and I got all crazy and stuff. Um but it was really more of like of my parents still wanting me to just be a kid and not worry about the situation. And so seeing her just come out of the surgeries well and still being like, yeah, I want to do this and that and all that stuff. Like they would never let me see her when it was like right afterwards. Now they talk about it. They talk about how it was afterwards, how much of long nights they would be up with her because of the pain and all that. So now I understand it, but when I was younger, it was much more like very very like over my head, like you don't need to know this, you just need to know that she's okay. But I do remember also it was when she was a teenager, she had to go get a procedure done for her neck so that she could extend it. And I remember when she came back, we had to take care of her. And it was one of those days where she got sick and started having fever and all that. And my parents were out working and I was there with her. And I kind of started to panic because I was like, well, I'm not a doctor, I don't know what to do and all that. The good thing is that she told me like, it's okay, this happens, I get sick, I get fevers, I throw up, like it's okay, just give me the medication and we'll be fine. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. But I was really freaking out inside. I was like, oh my God, like, what if I give her the wrong ones and all that? But she knew her stuff. So it wasn't much of a problem with that. I know like with our younger sister, she really didn't have to go through a lot of that. But I do remember I would help her. I remember vaguely when we were younger, little episodes of when we would go into the restroom and my mom had to change her gauze, and I would see that, and it would just be like, wow, like she's going through all of that, and like I don't have to go through that, and she is. So I don't know if that's why, like, I would see her as, and I always tell her, and she always cries when I say that, but like she is a role model to me because she's so strong and so brave. And after everything that she's been through, like she still persevered, she still has an amazing heart, she's so kind, and she didn't let people around her put her down. And even though sometimes, you know, like they could put her down, like she wouldn't let it show to the point where we would be worried about her or something. It was all pretty normal. Um so yeah, so our parents would just basically, they would let me be a kid but still let me know, like, she's going to the hospital so many times because of her scars, because of what happened. I believe I didn't know the full story until I was like around 10 or 11, when I was able to fully understand the situation.
Thank you for those words. Can you tell me a little more? In the beginning, you talked about your friends asking questions, and sometimes their questions or their comments being very harsh. You're the younger sister and this younger sibling, and regardless of the older one or the younger one, obviously you're not burned and your siblings burned. And for the outside community who don't know burns and don't know anyone who looks different, it takes them a second to readjust, right? And they're like, whoa, what's going on with that person? um how did you, can you remember those feelings that you had? Can you tell me how you felt when people would say those comments about, or even just the stares? Obviously, I think sometimes siblings are a little more aware of the stares than even the burn survivor. Can you tell me about those experiences?
I do know that at the beginning, I would get, either it would worry me for what they would say and hurt, like, and hurt her with their words, because little kids, they tend to not care what they say, and they just say what they think. But I, with the stares, the stares annoy me. They annoy me. They feel like they're penetrating her, but she seems so unfazed about it that it makes me angry about it. That I want to say something. I'm like, why are you staring so much? Like, just take a look and just look away. Like, yeah, she's different, but don't stare at her. But you know, like, some people just don't understand that. But those were like the main feelings. It was either a worry that they would say something that would, like, get her upset or make her feel like she is different, and just feeling annoyed and angry that those are like, and still up to this date, like, I if I see someone looking at her, like, even my little sister's a little bit more aggressive. She's like, I'm gonna say something, but I'm more of like, yeah, like, it annoys us, but it's something that has been dealt with since we were kids. And she's always said that we can't change the way that they feel or the way that they perceive me. So like, even if we tell them, like, hey, stop staring, like, they're not going to stop staring. Like, when we look away, they're going to look back. So just ignore them, and we're going to mind our own business. That's what she tells us that all the time. And she always stops my little sister from saying something too, because she's always like on the move, like, I'm gonna say something. I'm this close to saying something, and we're like, okay, let's calm down, like, everything's okay. But yes, mostly those are like the feelings. And I believe I could speak on the behalf of my little sister, that she gets really, really mad when we see people stare at her.
Thank you. The last question I have for you is, your sister was a part of the Burn Foundation since an early age and has really grown up coming to programs and services, including Champ Camp. As a sibling, and not just when she went to programs like Champ Camp, but outside of that, did you ever feel left out, or like, why does she get this and I don't? Especially, you said your parents would take off to the hospital with her for, a month at a time. Did you ever feel those feelings of feeling left out or neglected or jealous, maybe even? It's a strange word to put into there, but
I would say when I was younger, I was really jealous of all the activities that she would be able to do. There came a time because she would talk so fondly about Champ Camp, like so fondly, and I would be like, I want to go. Like, what can I do to go? Like, I would tell my parents, like, why can't I go? I want to be there. I want to go to camp. And they would be like, no, like that's something special for your sister. That's her place. That's for burn survivors. But me as a kid, I didn't understand that. I just wanted to go to camp. Um, and a little story about it, like I told Gika I wanted to go to camp when I was like around 8 years old. And I kept telling her that I wanted to go to camp, but she would always tell me like it's only for burn survivors. It's only for burn survivors. But when I was 8, I asked her again, and she's like, you know what? I think this year you can go. And I was like, oh, really? And she's like, yeah. And so she started making me do all these tests because of so badly, because I wanted to go so badly. And she told me, yeah, you need to take 5-minute shower, so I'm gonna test you. And I was like, oh, okay. And so she would test me too, and she would tell me like, you need to learn how to do this and that, you need to learn how to swim, and she would put me all these tests, and at the end of it, she's like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't go. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, like I went to those extremes because I wanted to be a part of that, because I would see how happy she would come back from that. And there were times where I would be like jealous and mad and be like, why can't I do all of that stuff? Like, I want to do that. And my parents would always tell us that like our sister's special, like she has these little things that make her feel good. These are her things, and we have other things. And so they would try to make it up with like buying us Nintendo DS, or taking us to eat where we wanted to go out to eat when we would leave her to go to camp, because camp was like the major thing. Like that was like the major attraction of like, I want to do that. And I would also remember like when we were at when we lived in Sacramento and we would go to Shriners, that every time she would have these visits from dogs, and she would have like painting lessons, and she would get tickets to go see football games, which we would go to, but during those games, like she would go up to the front and like be recognized and all that. And I would be like, well, why can't I go down there with her too? Like, I think one time I wanted to go down with her, but my mom didn't let me. And she was like, yeah, she can come and all that. So she would try her best to not make us like feel bad about everything that she would be able to do. And I think like our parents would tell her like, don't feel bad. Like this is for you. This is like given to you. It's not given to them. We will deal with them. And they would, we're kids. So whatever little other thing that they would bring up, like, oh yeah, I would forget until the next year, But yeah, that was basically us with her activities and what she would do, and what the difference and all that, until I was able to be a counselor, and I was able to live through that as a counselor. And I was like, wow, I was right. I really did want to be a part of this since I was a little girl.
And you are a part of this, thank you for sharing your story today. Uh, if there was one bit of advice you could give to another sibling, what would that be? We talk a lot in the burn community at the Burn Foundation about peer support and how powerful peer support is. And that peer support could also be sibling to sibling, right? And sharing your common stories and how much healing there is there. So what is a bit of advice that you would give to another sibling who may just got their sibling might have just gotten burned, or they could be 5 years out, or wherever they're at in their process?
My advice would be, and this is from my own experience, let them come to you. They went through something very traumatic, even if it was something very small. Unfortunately for my sister, it wasn't. And sometimes it's hard to talk about it. Sometimes it's easy. And sometimes they just need to forget about it. And they just need their siblings to be their siblings and just act normal around them and act as kids and all that. Um, so it would mostly just be there as much as they allow you to be. And even if you can push it a little bit more, because sometimes they will want to push away. And I say that if you're going through the teenage years, because that was like the part where I really felt like she was just pushing away, and she was pushing away from everyone, and she just wanted to be secluded. It's kind of like, bring out things like watch a movie that you guys really like to watch, or play weird games. We would used to play like Office, there was like something that would distract her and make her feel like she wasn't burned. And only talk about her scar, or hers or his scars, whenever they feel like they're comfortable to talk about, or to talk about like the experience. Never ever talk about how they felt when it happened, unless they tell you, because it will bring back those memories, and it will probably shut them down, or just put them in a different mood for that day, and something that you really don't want to do. So be patient. It's the most powerful thing with your siblings. They might not be the same outside, but they are the same inside. So whenever it is that they do want to be playful and talk about whatever it is that they want to do, just go with it. Don't question it, just do it.
Awesome. Karen, thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of this series and communicating your perspective of how you went through your sister's injury. I want to thank everyone for watching this video. For more information on the Lisa Ann Roosh Burn Foundation, please go to our website at www.aarbf.org. Thank you for being a part of the Getaway. Thank you, Karen, again, for being a part of our episode today.
You're
Bye, guys.
welcome. Bye.